The deities have no passport, but they cross borders. They travel on sailing ships and in dusty caravans. They hide in markets, slip into hymns, into royal marriages and into conquests. They change their names, wear new robes, speak other tongues, and yet they remain themselves. This is the chronicle of the traveling gods, a map in motion where faith is the compass and power, the headwind. The sun sets over the oasis of Siwa, on Egypt's western edge. It is the year 332 before our era. A young Macedonian general, barely 30 years old, enters the sanctuary of Ammonius. His name already echoes throughout the Mediterranean: Alexander. The temple walls are painted with golden hieroglyphs that seem to burn under the torchlight. The priest, in a white robe, speaks softly, declaring that he is the son of the god. From this encounter is born Zeus Ammonius, a hybrid god, half Greek, half Egyptian, who will travel across 3 continents with the Hellenistic armies. His image will appear on coins, statues, and temples from Egypt to Bactria. The city of Alexandria, newly founded, breathes salt and papyrus. It is the 3rd century before our era. The Ptolemies, heirs of Alexander, understand that to govern is not only to administer, it is to create symbols. Ptolemy I orders his wise men to invent a god that unites pharaonic Egypt and the Greek settlers. Thus Serapis is born, with a Greek beard, a Hellenic robe, but with the soul of Osiris and the fertility of Apis. In marble courtyards, men in chitons and Egyptians in shendit light lamps before the same altar. Serapis is diplomacy turned to stone. It is the 2nd century before our era. The ports of Delos, Piraeus and Syracuse smell of fish and ship resin. Among amphorae and nets, priests of Isis perform rituals to open the sailing season. In Pompeii, a fresco shows her in a white robe and scepter. In Rome, temples are erected near the Campus Martius. Sailors ask her for favorable winds, merchants for prosperity. The goddess, born on the Nile, now rules the Mare Nostrum. Year 204 before our era. Rome suffers the Second Punic War. The Senate, guided by omens and oracles, decides to bring from Anatolia the black stone of Cybele, the Magna Mater. A ship sails up the Tiber as Galatian drums and chants fill the air. The stone, wrapped in purple cloths, is placed in a new temple on the Palatine. Every spring, the city celebrates her arrival with processions of dancers, cymbals, and chariots. A foreign goddess becomes the protector of the Republic. In the 1st century of our era, far from the public squares, faith takes refuge underground. In the subterranean Mithraea, lit by torches, reliefs of Mithras show the sacred scene, the god slaying the primordial bull. This cult, arrived from Persia, travels with the Roman legions to Britannia, Germania, and the Danube. Mithras promises strength, fellowship, and salvation to soldiers and officials. Wherever there is a garrison, a hidden Mithraeum can be found. On the shores of Galilee and Judea, the message of a crucified preacher begins to spread in the 1st century of our era. Through merchants and dispersed Jewish communities, Christianity expands across the Mediterranean. In the year 313, the Edict of Milan grants it freedom. In 380, Theodosius makes it the official religion. The ancient deities recede, but many survive disguised in customs and popular festivals. Along the Silk Road, camel caravans carry not only silk and spices, but also ideas. From the 3rd century before our era to the 5th century of our era, Buddhist monks travel from India to China. On the way, the figure of Avalokiteshvara transforms. In China he becomes Guanyin, a goddess of compassion who listens to the suffering of the world. The gods change gender, language and face, but their essence remains intact. Between the 1st and 10th centuries, Tamil and Gujarati merchants bring Vishnu and Shiva to Sumatra, Java, and Cambodia. In Angkor, temples in the shape of a cosmic mountain rise above the jungle. In Java, the ocean of milk is carved in stone. Sanskrit becomes the language of the court, and the Indian gods receive Khmer crowns and local garments.
In Alexandria, philosophers combine the Greek Hermes and the Egyptian Thoth to create Hermes Trismegistus, master of wisdom and alchemy. His texts travel to Byzantium, Baghdad, and Toledo, influencing astrologers, physicians, and medieval mystics. A god, turned into a symbol of knowledge, becomes an intellectual traveler. In ports and markets from Antioch to Carthage, merchants exchange not only goods, but gods. A house may have an altar for Isis, another for Mithras, and a third for the local protective spirit. The traveling gods do not demand exclusivity, only presence. In the 7th century, from Mecca, Islam expands toward Damascus, Cairo, Kairwa, and Cordoba. It carries no images, but sacred words that travel with merchants and conquerors. In Africa, Asia, and Europe, mosques rise next to markets, creating new sacred landscapes. Between the 11th and 15th centuries, ports like Malacca, Calicut, and Aden are meeting points for the Quran, the Vedas, and the Sutras. In these multicultural kingdoms, a Muslim sultan may sponsor Hindu festivals, and a temple may bear inscriptions in Arabic and Sanskrit. Religion becomes diplomacy. By the 15th century, the Atlantic routes open. In Lisbon and Seville, shipyards hammer wood for ocean crossings. On the coasts of Africa, Yoruba, Fon, and Congo drums resound at dusk. They do not yet know it, but they are about to begin the longest and most painful journey of their gods. The Atlantic is not just an ocean, it is a dark mirror where two worlds are about to collide. In its waters, the trade winds carry ships loaded with ambition, violence, and hope. In their holds, chained bodies, and with them, names, songs, prayers, gods. The gods do not travel in trunks or coffers. They travel in memory, in the pulse of the drum that beats inside the chest, in the words no one can confiscate. It is the 16th century. On the coasts of Senegal, Gambia, Benin, Angola, the slave markets bustle. Amid cries, weeping, and the metallic clamor of shackles, men and women are taken to the ships. Among them, the Yoruba, Congo, and Mandinka peoples. In their minds, sacred names. Shango, Lord of Thunder, Yamaya, Mother of the Sea, Ogun, Forger of Paths, Nzambi, Congo Creator. They carry no temples or statues, their sanctuary is memory. Their altars, the whispers among chains. The Atlantic crossing lasts weeks. The smell of salt mingles with that of fear and disease. Some prisoners gaze at the horizon, seeking comfort in Yamaya, asking the waters to return their freedom. On deck, the overseers do not know that in each prayer a hidden god travels, turning the ship's hold into a sacred ark in motion. Disembarkation in Bahia, Havana, Cartagena de Indias, or Port-au-Prince is not the end of the journey, it is the beginning of a new exile. In the plantations of sugar, coffee, and cotton, the work is inhuman, but in furtive rests, hands beat the drum and lips recite ancient invocations. There, the gods listen and adapt.
In the Caribbean and Brazil, Catholicism imposed by Spaniards and Portuguese is mandatory. But the African gods find a strategy to survive. They dress themselves with new names. Shango is recognized in Saint Barbara, who also wields lightning. Yamaya hides under the Virgin of Regla. Ogun walks as Saint George. Ashan smiles beneath the Virgin of Charity of El Cabra. To the master's eyes, the slaves pray to Catholic saints. But they know that under that mask, they are still invoking their gods. In Havana, the tolling of the bell announces Mass. But in a corner of the choir, a different rhythm responds, the beat of bata drums. In Salvador de Bahia, the procession of the Virgin of the Rosary of the Blacks advances with candles and banners. While behind in the shadows, the drums play for Oxum and Ogum. Syncretism is not coincidence. It is a precise choreography where every drumbeat is a secret word that the overseers do not understand. In Cuba, the crossing of saints and orishes gives rise to Santeria. In Brazil to Candomblé, in Haiti to Vodou. They are not African copies nor Christian imitations. They are new, living religions that combine what was inherited and what was learned. An altar may hold a crucifix, images of saints, shells, fruits, and colored candles, all at the same time. In the 19th century, with trade and migration, some practitioners returned to Africa carrying transformed versions of their cults. In Lagos and Ouida, Americanized orishas reunite with their original temples. It is a journey of departure and return that also transforms Africa. Syncretism was not weakness, but a silent weapon. It allowed the gods to survive for centuries under surveillance. In the homes, grandmothers taught double prayers, one aloud for the master,
another whispered for the ancestor. At the other end, the Pacific Seas also saw beliefs travel. In the Philippines, the spirits called Anaito hid beneath Catholic devotions. In Hawaii, the goddess Pele of fire and volcanoes continued to receive offerings even after the arrival of Christian missionaries. In the 20th century, the journey reverses. Santeria flourishes in New York, Candomblé opens temples in Lisbon, Haitian Vodou celebrates ceremonies in Montreal and Paris. What was born as resistance in slavery becomes cultural export. Today, the gods no longer cross the sea in slave ships. They do so in airplanes, inside suitcases, in consecrated necklaces, in figurines wrapped in clothing. In an apartment in Madrid or Los Angeles, an improvised altar still lights candles for the same Yamaya who once protected sailors in the Gulf of Guinea. The same god may have altars in Lagos, Havana, Rio de Janeiro, Madrid, and Los Angeles. They may speak in Yoruba, Spanish, Portuguese, or English, and still answer the same. The history of these gods is the history of the people who carry them. Where there is a journey, there is a god embarking. Where there is a border, there is an improvised altar. The gods travel, and never fully arrive. They are always in transit, seeking another port, another language, another heart to name them. The story you have just heard is only one of the many that have marked the course of human beliefs. In Historia Immersiva, each chapter takes us a little deeper into the fascinating and complex world of religions. If you want to keep exploring mysteries, legends, and hidden truths, subscribe and join us on the next journey. Because the next chapter is already written in time.